It still blows my mind that all of this stuff broke through opening weekend of Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this shouldn't be possible. This hands Avatar should be the dominating headlines
Why?
because it's following the most successful film of all time
So
financially. It should inherit by default headlines as opposed to things that people are just tweeting.
nah.
You know, I have
If
so
this
much.
were 2011, yeah. It's 2022. This movie's already 13 years overdue. Not to say I'm not talking about the quality of it. I'm just saying the relevancy and the fan appeal is not where it would be ideally. And we're fresh off of a pandemic. Not saying
Mhm.
there's like a huge factor, but people are still, getting back to normal, whatever you want to call that. And it's
I
like,
don't count them. Not after Spider-Man No Way Home. You can't use that.
no, I agree. I agree. But at the same time, this is a property that hasn't been built up because Spider-Man No Way Home had
Yeah, it
multiple
got
movies
built
to
up.
build
Yeah,
it up in the meantime. This is a movie that's been dormant. Some
for
people
over a
question whether it
decade.
was even real for 13 years. So
Right.
there's two different levels of connectivity with this with the general audiences. Now, I will say this
Yeah.
because my wife tried to she was like, yo, I want to go see this movie. And I was like, you trying to buy tickets now? And like it was sold out. Like almost everywhere I looked on the apps,
Yeah.
you only got a couple seats here and there, here and there. And that's for a couple days. So
Yeah.
that is a good sign, I think, for Avatar 2. But I think, if you think about it, like I think they said it's gonna open up to 150 million or something like that, like opening week.
I
But
expected more.
the irony is, or the crazy thing is, the first movie opened up to half of that. So it might just be one of those movies. Once again, people go see, people are like, yo, this is wild. You do have probably a new generation that never saw it in theaters go to see it, and they'd be like, yo, I didn't know it was like this, and then they go bring
Well,
their friends, they go bring
yeah,
their,
and that's what
know,
helped the first one because it
yeah,
had repeat viewings and it had
right,
long life in the theaters. Now this
right,
one, if it follows like tradition, recent, most common, theatrical releases, we're expecting a drop off of at least half by next weekend. But if it follows in the first movie, that'll be a much smaller number and it'll
sure,
continue to have legs.
sure,
Um, I mean, I'm just still, but that depends on the quality of the film, right? When people saw the first Avatar, they were blown away.
yep,
Now, when we see the reactions to this one, it's not bad at all. No, no, it's still overwhelmingly positive. It's just not as good as people expected. Like I think
right.
on Rotten Tomatoes, people were expecting like a 90 or something, and what is it sitting at? Like
What was the first one at?
um, a good question. What was the first one at?
Because
The
the first one came out before I was even a film critic, so
So I
who
don't know
knows
what
what I
it
would rate it.
was back then, but as of today, Avatar 1 is sitting with an 82%.
That sounds about right. I
Right. So
mean,
I
this
don't know what it was back then.
this movie's probably gonna be somewhere close to that. I
I
could see
mean,
it. I could see Avatar 2 being at somewhere in the low 80s as well. I mean,
this
these
is
movies are
got
not
300 reviews.
they're not they're not perfect. Their movies are not perfect.
No.
The number one criticism most people have against the Avatar movies are the writing and the story. Like the
Yep.
writing and the story, the overall plot is usually where people are like, yo, this is forgettable, it's very weak, it's thin, it's repetitive, it's way too familiar, etc., etc.
Hmm.
Nobody argues that it's a visual feat that
Oh
sets the
man,
bar.
that high frame rate 3D.
Sure. Like there's nobody's gonna be like, oh man, like the only people that underestimate or whatever the visuals are the people that didn't see it in theaters in real 3D.
Right.
Those are the only people like, well, it wasn't that big of a deal. you know, you didn't see the full thing. Like you saw it at like 70%. You didn't see it in its final
Yeah.
form. You know,
No,
you go
no.
watch that sucker in Dolby 3D or in IMAX 3D and treat
Yeah.
yourself. Like this, like
Or
seriously,
do
if you don't
40x,
like 3D
whatever.
movies, this is the one movie you make that one exception for. This is the
It
one time you make the exception.
pay more for the better experience. Absolutely, 110%.
Like I was legitimately thinking my wife and my daughter wanted to go see it,
Hmm.
and I was like, they were like, "Yo, buy us some tickets." And I kept looking at all the local theaters, and I was like,
Mm-mm,
"This ain't Dolby. Nah, this ain't IMAX. Nah, I know they got real 3D, but y'all, this
mm-mm,
ain't it." I'm like, "Yo, I
mm-mm.
gotta send y'all downtown. I
And
have to send y'all downtown so you could be
hmm
in the Dolby theater and
hmm
really get this real feeling."
yeah,
And I know it costs like damn near double, but it's worth it.
it's absolutely worth it. And not all Dolby theaters are created
No,
equal. They got to be compared. They got to be vetted. I'm curious what the IMAX experience is. I saw it in two different Dolby theaters, and oh my god, I it is an experience in itself to see it in a Dolby theater. But if you're able to get one of those, I'm gonna see if there's like a certification for it. But if you could get them 2-story, like if you go into the Dolby theater and you see a sign that says "Go this way to the mezzanine," you found the right one. That's the one you want to be in. The one where it's like 3D surround sound. That's the one you want to be in. But I agree with you 110%. You can't just go into this and see it in a regular theater. I think people were asking me, do you need to see it in 3D? It goes beyond whether or not you need to see it in 3D. You need to pay, like you said, for
yeah,
the highest option that they have.
yeah. I mean,
And
the closest thing I could recommend this, because I remember I was talking to my nieces about it, and I was like, because they never saw it in theaters,
yeah,
they were too young, and I was like, you remember when you went to Disney World and you paid all that money to go to those like live shows, like A Bug's Life or whatever, and those shows, when I tell you they're so immersive, like the
hmm
3D is crazy there. It's the same thing. It's like what you would pay for at expensive Disneyland. That's what
yes,
you getting in your theater, and it's wild because you've never seen this unless you've seen the first Avatar. So, James Cameron, I mean, he set the bar. Ain't nobody touching him right now.
there's really some people out there who I heard say they're gonna wait for it to come out on Disney
I've
Plus.
heard
I'm
some people
like,
say that too, and I'm like, I like,
don't
yo,
bother. Don't see
I
the movie. Don't
like, yeah.
bother.
At that point, like, you don't need to watch it, like, unless. And this is weird too because I haven't heard this often, but I keep seeing some of my subscribers say this, like, I can't watch 3D. Like, I don't know, something with the eyeballs, with the brain. I don't know. Listen, if you got a medical condition, you get a pass. I get it. But if you don't, I'm sorry. Like, if unless you get headaches or your eyeballs hurt or something, like, go watch it in 3D.
And
Go
if
do
you
that.
can, take a pill.
Yeah.
Take a
Yeah.
pill. Handle it. Take you some anti-nausea pills. Take some Tylenol. Tough it out. It's worth it for the 3 hours. But consult your doctor. Um, I still enjoyed the movie. I'm still surprised by a little bit of the reaction. It's one of those movies where I'm still seeing that difference between critics' reactions and audience reactions. Like if you look on Rotten Tomatoes, Avatar is sitting with 78% with critics with 312 reviews, but audience score of 94%. That's
Right.
2,500 ratings.
Well, I mean, you have to think about this. Like, the threshold for audiences is much lower than it is for critics.
We are a little tough on movies.
No, I mean, it's literally by the nature of what we do.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, think of this scenario. You're walking up to a roller coaster. There are two people. One one person is there just as a passenger. They're just there for the ride. And the other person is there as an engineer. They're there to make sure that quality control and everything for the roller coaster. Y'all
Hmm.
both
Hmm.
stay on the roller coaster and both ride the loop de loops and everything. Guess what? The passenger's like, woo, man, that was fast. Woo, I like the loops. Man, the twists and turns were great. What is the engineer going in there? Nope, the velocity wasn't good enough. Oh, that twist and turn. Nope, we got to redo the polling right there. Like, they're there to analyze it and make it better, right? So the threshold of expectations are completely different. You just want to go fast. That's it. You just want to go fast and go turn upside down. when I tell people all the time, listen, for a fan, when it's not your job to analyze a movie, all you want is to be entertained. You know how easy that is? Just to be entertained, you might just need, the whole movie could be crap. And you might just need 3 or 4 scenes that make you laugh, that make you jump, or that are just exciting. And even if the movie's garbage, you will sit there and be like, but I was entertained. That's not a lot. It's not a lot, you know? So yes, it's always going to be a difference for critics and fans because that we going in with 2 different jobs. I was just talking to somebody on my video because I just posted my review, and they were like, "Yeah, Avatar is a 10 out of 10." I'm like, "It's perfect, perfect," and he was like, "Yeah, but how could it not be a 10 out of 10 with those visuals?" And I was like, "That's it." But like, that's it.
There's certain people who would do that all the time.
Right. And that's my point. Like for them, all they're looking at were the visuals. And that was all, that's all they needed. And I'm like, yo, I'm going in there looking at the cinematography. I'm going in there looking at the plot. I'm thinking about the themes. I'm thinking about the acting and the performances. I'm thinking about like the rewatchability. I'm thinking about the watchability. I'm using way more factors to analyze this film. And you just want to see, did they show me shiny stuff? Did they tantalize my eyeballs? And if they did that, 10 out of 10.
It's a little crazy, but you know what? Let them have what they want. They're happy.
Oh, I have no issue with that. Listen, I got no problem with fans enjoying themselves. I just wish people would be more honest about their level of it, about how they're approaching things.
To be fair, they're just approaching it from their perspective. So like, I was thinking about something recently. I don't know how I ended up doing it, but I keep finding YouTube suggesting like Jason David Frank videos to me, right? It's like Jason David Frank. And then they keep showing me all these old Power Rangers clips that 10-year-old me thought was amazing. Oh my gosh. It's Morphin Time, the music, the Ninja Zords, all that stuff. But then adult me looks at it with my more critical eye and I'm like, I can't even get my son to watch this. Like,
right.
So I get it.
It's actually one of the reasons why I purposely will not rewatch certain things. Because I'm like, nah, you finna live in my head rent free as the greatest thing I've ever seen. And I'm not trying to ruin that image by rewatching it.
I have a bunch of movies like that. Paddington Bear, Ghostbusters 2, Brave Little Toaster,
Ninja Turtles? Ninja Turtles 2? Ninja Turtles 2,
just leave it alone.
You can't tell me nothing. I will never rewatch it, but you can't tell me nothing. That movie is one of the best.
Ninja. Rats.
Come on, man. Go Ninja. Go Ninja. Go Ninja. Man, don't get me started that. Boy.
Part 1 is totally rewatchable if you ever wanted to give it a shot.
Actually, I might mess around and watch it.
Part 1 is totally rewatchable.
100%. 100%. I would actually appreciate
with Kino.
Man, come on, man. He was so underutilized. I was like, why didn't y'all get this man a spinoff? Like,
he was working hard for his spinoff.
Yeah,
he didn't get it, man. But yeah, Avatar, Ninja Turtles, all these movies those movies need to live rent free. Titan AE, all that stuff. All those people who are enjoying Avatar for what it is right now, God bless them. It still just surprises me a little bit that there's this much of a divide. I always like to point it out too, right? I love to point out when there's a divide between the critics and the audiences. But it happened again with this one. I'm curious to see how to perform next week. I'm curious to see if this movie is going to have the legs to continue to get those box office numbers.
I actually think I think it will, only because if it was hard. Because like I said, I was trying to get tickets, for my wife and them.
Yeah.
If it was hard to get tickets for one weekend, I'm not going to assume that these same people are going to be like, oh, well, I'll go catch it on Wednesday. These are probably people that, work or whatever. No, but I'm just saying, these are probably people with 9 to 5s, and they ain't got time for a 3-hour movie on a weekday. So what I'm saying is, if they can't go watch it on this Saturday, they'll go book a ticket to watch it next Saturday. Right. And then the people that missed out last Saturday will have to get another one for the next Saturday. So
And
all I'm saying is I don't think that dip is going to be as much, mainly because people are going to actually try to plan for this to go watch it.
we'll see. I'm curious if that'll hold
Now,
true.
now what will be what will be a factor is how long Disney allows this to stay in theaters. Now, I know Cameron is going to be like, "Yo, don't touch my movie.
No,
That
if it's making money,
45-day
they'll leave it
release
in.
window nonsense, stop it."
No, I'm
Like,
sure it's not even released under typical Disney. This is straight Fox Searchlight. He's like, I'm not messing with those new
I
friends.
mean,
No new
it's still
friends. Where's
Disney,
all my
but
old Fox people at? Searchlight
listen,
Pictures.
I get that, but as long as they don't sit here and say 45 days until
No,
Disney
ain't no way.
Plus,
Ain't
as
no
long as
way.
they don't do that,
Ain't no way.
it should be all right.
I promise you, he would Christopher Nolan his way out of this company if
might.
they tried to pull some stuff like that. I
He might.
promise you, he would Christopher Nolan pick up all his toys, all his
He
upcoming
might.
productions.
I mean, listen,
walk
it
out the
might be
door.
part because I highly doubt as someone as meticulous as James Cameron, I would not be surprised if my man was like, "Look, I'm gonna put it in my contract. You're gonna leave this in theaters for as long as I say
Yeah.
so."
Until I'm saying it's done.
Yeah.
And then even then, you're not allowed to put it on streaming for a while.
Yeah.
For a while. You need
Yeah.
to let my movie eat.
And
on
we gonna
DVD
re-release
and
it again.
Blu-ray.
And
we're
we
gonna
gonna
re-release
re-release it
and then
every other 8
eventually,
months.
eventually I'll let you do the Disney Plus version.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm curious about, and I don't know if you saw this news, is about how he's insisting to finish the effects on his 9-hour cut of Avatar 3.
Yeah.
And then he'll trim it down. So it sounds like, and he's making it obvious to people who know anything about strategy, that he has plans for that footage, right?
Oh,
He
that
has
sounds like a director extended cut, special edition, Lord of the
oh,
Rings.
more than that. This sounds like a Disney Plus series, right? We're
Oh,
going to take
well,
Avatar 3, make it a movie, and then after a year, we'll make it an extended Disney Plus event where we show an hour a week or 2 hours a week where it's like a show and they
that
expand.
wouldn't be bad.
That
Listen,
would be amazing.
let me tell you something. When I started watching this movie, one thing I loved about it, obviously, were the visuals, right?
Yeah.
But when it came to the story, I was like, there's so much story here.
Too much
I think I
happening.
actually would appreciate this more as a series.
It needed to be.
I would
It
I
needed room
would
to
rap
breathe.
because you got all these characters, they go in all these different directions, they're doing all these different things. I would have appreciated just been like, yo, let's just break this up. Because think about it. A lot of those battles that
Yeah.
happen, those
Yeah.
things could have been season finales.
First
And
off,
it would have been great.
everything in the first act
Yeah,
deserves to be expanded on.
sure.
That whole first, I
Sure.
would say, 40 minutes of the movie
Mm,
where they're still in the forest and they're having all these battles and we're learning all the background information about what humans have been doing in the past year or two
Matter
or
of fact,
10.
that should have been a special, and then the second and third act should have been the actual movie for Avatar 2.
I mean, it could have been 2 movies. It could have been a lot
I
of
would have
things.
been fine if they did 2 movies because I remember it was around the 2-hour mark that I actually started looking at my watch. Like, wait a minute
Oh.
now, like yo, what? How long we been here?
Yeah.
Not I kept watching, but
I
I'm just
wasn't
like,
like
yo,
ready to
my
go,
back,
but I was
my
curious how
back and
much
my
time
neck.
has passed. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. So I hear you. Everything could. I'm okay if they go forward with that idea of finishing all of 9 hours of the special effects, and Cameron decides to do something special with it afterwards. I think that would be a great idea. I hope he did something like that with this movie because Avatar 2, like I said, that first act was a little quick and could have had a lot more time to further develop all that backstory, all that stuff about what the humans were doing with cloning, the fact that they know how to download conscious. What are they, the X-Men? They sitting up here making clone backups and bringing people back. Like,
I mean, they on it.
everything with Spider, he just popped up out of nowhere, or Miles, or whatever
I was
he's
so
called.
not I was so not okay with him.
So Spider, I get Spider, but I think he needed more time. You can't
Yeah.
just throw him
And
in there and be
I
like,
think he's
run
gonna
with it.
get more time over the course of the movies. I'm
He
just saying
could
for
have.
now, I just don't care.
Yes, I wish he had more time now. There's so many things that were just thrown in. everything with Took, everything with Spider, everything with Kitty, everything with Kitty was just we just glossed over it. There's so much about her character that is unique just to her, like her
Yeah.
superpowers, her ability to just.
Well, don't spoil it now. Don't spoil it for the folks.
All right, I won't say nothing else, but
But you're right. There is a lot to
unpack with her.
yeah.
I wish they would have took some time to just focus more on that. Is this the first Avatar movie with nudity? Because I saw a nipple.
Yeah, I saw a couple of them, but I was like, they aliens. They don't count.
Oh man.
And it was dropping F-bombs. I was like, what rating is this?
Yeah, PG-13.
Mofos getting limbs blown off and stuff. Like, wait a minute, this is violent.
Real teenage, yo.
I can't bring my kids to this.
Oh, real teenagers doing real teenage things. And as quickly as homie bagged that girl. Anyway. But yeah, Avatar is going to have to prove itself to see if it's going to have those long legs. I'm curious to see if it's going to do as financially well as the first film in the box office, and what James Cameron might have planned for his whole Avatar universe, him wanting to train other directors. All this stuff sounds super exciting to me. I'm here for it. I wasn't in with Avatar the first time it came out. I'm in now. I'm all the way in.